And see, this is the true issue because the methodology is the issue. Basically, how they're deciding what data counts, what data doesn't count, how they're going to analyze that, those are the issues. For example, let's take this 2015 study, The Genetic Ancestry of African Americans, Latinos, and European Americans Across the United States, that uses data from 23andMe. In it, very specifically, it has 5,269 self-described African American. Popular method of population labeling is basically to recruit people or use people who self-identify as a certain way. So a lot of us, like I might have self-identified as Black American. This particular study used US Census categories, and you can see right here that they basically asked 2 questions and had the customers self-identify. So at least 2 times that the customer or whoever they're using for this representative sample had to have checked that they were Black or African American. And obviously that wasn't just true for that group, it was for all the groups, but there's a reason why I'm highlighting that group. So they did this for all of their participants, and then they say, overall, we expect that our survey data represent highly reliable ancestry information with errors affecting fewer than 1% of survey responses. Okay, keep that in your mind. So they feel very confident that less than 1% of survey errors are occurring across all the populations. Researchers have a pretty high confidence that the people that they've selected are representative of the populations that they're trying to study. They're starting to talk about how they're defining this representative sample, and that they expect in this group there should be anywhere between 73 to 93% African ancestry in this group. So they're going in and expecting to see this. Now, this is grounded in other literature and research, but remember, all of that is still grounded on the assumption that anyone who either self-identifies as African American or phenotypically looks Black American had to have descended from the slave trade. That is a baked-in assumption to everything. So now if you look down here, it says, a small fraction, about 2% of African Americans carry less than 2% African ancestry. And so basically that's like not African at all. So they're like, that's odd, let's figure it out. And so it says, further investigation reveals that the majority of individuals, about 88%, have predominantly European ancestry, and then a whole bunch of different types of Asian ancestry, roughly in proportions to the other people in the database that they're using. So then this is the part that affects the statistical outcome. If you look down here, hence, we posit that these individuals represent survey errors rather than true self-reported African Americans. Exclusion of these 108 self-reported African Americans with less than 2% ancestry from mean ancestry calculations results in a moderate rise to 74.8% of the mean proportion of African ancestry in African Americans. So they did a couple of things here. So first, they are basically saying that the people that self-identified as African American and have no African ancestry, they cannot be African American. Instead, it must be a survey error. They accidentally clicked the wrong box. Although we just read where they felt that they had less than 1% of survey errors in this study. If it were truly a survey error, you would expect this to be randomized across groups. You've already told me that it's less than 1%. And now you're saying that the 2% of African Americans that do not have African ancestry, or I should say less than 2% of African ancestry, suddenly only in this group, there's all these survey errors. These people cannot check the right box. And then they take those 108 people and say, oh, you're confused. You cannot be African American based on what we're expecting. So we are going to now exclude you from the data. We are not going to use you in our analyses. And once they did that, now they have a mean, they have an average that goes up to what they are expecting. So then they're like, yes, this is the right group, because now the number looks like what we were expecting to find once we got rid of the people that we don't think actually are representative of this group. So it's not that the numbers are exactly lying, it's that the researchers have expectations of what something should be. And when something doesn't fit that narrative, rather than investigating that, and I get it, it's not the purpose of their study, but rather than investigating that, they say, oh, it doesn't fit, let's leave it out, and we're only going to keep in what fits. So why does that matter, you're asking me? Okay, so if this is supposed to be a representative sample and is supposed to represent the Black American population in the United States. Okay, so then let's actually talk about what that could mean. At the last census count, there were roughly over 41 million people who self-identified as Black or African American. If you take those findings, 2% of that population, you're almost close to 1 million people that are walking around phenotypically looking Black and having self-identified as Black American, likely because that's how they've been classified their whole life, but carry less than 2% African DNA. So then the results you're getting on that platform, and this one was specifically for 23andMe, are not actually representative of the entire self-identified population. They are reflective of the population that fit the assumptions of the researchers that they could verify then through statistical methods.